Alright, look at this. This is Texas red chili, a little bit of onion and some cheese on top there. I tell you what, this is a dish that once you've tried it, you're just going to go nuts. And I tell you what, this is the best thing in the world on a cold winter day. A little bit of Texas red chili. Hello, welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. On this episode, we're going to be making a batch of Texas chili. Now, I thought it was about time that I put on one show that's all about chili. I'm not going to show a whole lot of different ways of making it. I'm going to show you one way of making it. I've been doing this for years, decades in fact. And I'll tell you what, I've come up with a chili recipe that is really off the hook good. And sure enough, there's lots of chilies in it. I believe this is a dish that deserves its namesake. So, come a little closer and let's go over what we're going to use to make chili. Alright, now we are going to be, of course, making chili. So on our ingredients, let's start with the heart of our chili, and that's going to be our beef. I have two separate cuts of beef here. This one's a top sirloin, and this one is a New York strip. We're all familiar with that cut, and it's a wonderful flavor. So I'll tell you what, we're going to take this wonderful strip steak and this sirloin, and I'm going to grind them together. If you don't have a grinder, I tell you what, talk to your butcher, and I'll bet you money they'll gladly grind it for you. Now, on our other ingredients, what would chili be without chilies? Okay, so we have some poblanos here, and we have some jalapenos. 3 poblanos, 5 jalapenos, 2 medium-sized onions. This is some tomato paste. And you know, a lot of times you hear me say things like, oh, well, don't bother using tomato paste with chili powder in it, because if we're looking for a chili powder flavor, then we just make a chili sauce from dried chilies. But in this case, we actually want the tomato flavor in this. This is part of the tradition of making good chili. So we're going to use this, and we're going to use the dry grind on chilies, and that way we can get a flavor in there, but we don't want to rob it completely of its tomato flavor. So it's going to be strong on these chilies, but not overwhelming to what the dish is. Also, another important ingredient, this back here is some bourbon. Okay, don't worry about what brand of bourbon you get, just get a good quality one. Anything that is good for drinking is good for making a good dish from. Also, we're going to be using some water, so that's going to be about 1.5 cups here, 2 cups here, and something in a glass for you to enjoy as you do this. Okay, now let's move right on to our next step, and we're going to be dealing with our chilies over here. We want to scorch these. Let's go ahead and get these chilies onto some fire. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to place chilies directly on top of a gas burner. And if you don't have an indoor gas burner, you can of course use an outdoor grill. That works really well. Also, put these under a broiler. That can work. Any direct high heat source, even if you just have a torch, that will work well also. Now I'm turning that burner on, and we're going to cook all of our chilies on top of this. And the idea here is not really to cook the chili, but to char the skin. And in that charring process, I'm going to get a smoky-like flavor built into my chilies. And it's a wonderful flavor, and it's a good start for a flavor boost for a good tasting chili. You can hear those crackling, and what that is, that's the skin puffing up and blistering. As you can see a little on the edge here. A little more here. And you can see after being in direct flame for a bit that they are not easily affected. Give them some time. This process goes well, and once you've scorched the skin and you've turned it charred black all over, then you can wash that skin off of there or just peel it off with your hands. Peeling it off will retain more of the smoky flavor. Washing it will still give you a good flavored chili and retain a portion of that smoky flavor. Not all of it though. And I like to wash it because it's going to be something that's just added to a robust chili, and I want that as a background flavor. Okay, we're going to call that good. I'm going to take these and give them all a good wash, and after that wash, I'll be preparing my vegetables for a really good quality chili. Alright, it is time for me to go ahead and grind up my beef. Now, if you do not have a meat grinder, as I mentioned before, you can simply ask your butcher to take one of each of these items, pound and a half of the sirloin, top sirloin, and 1 pound worth of the New York strip, and to simply grind them together, fat and all. Alright, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for some of the fat content from this baby and the flavor of it mixed in with the beefy, heavy flavor of the sirloin there. So, I'm simply going to take this and to cut it into strips. And the idea of the strips is so that the grinder will take the beef in just a little easier, because the hole that the beef is to feed through is sort of small in diameter. And that's pretty normal for any kind of meat grinder. So you're going to have to do a little pre-cutting before you grind. Now, with a hand grinder, of course, you're going to have it mounted, clamped to the side of your counter. But with a power grinder, it's a whole different thing, and there's a lot of different kinds. I'm using the attachment for a mixer that I have. Go. We got it. Alright. Now I've got my meat ready to go in the pot. Let's move on to our next stage. It's time for us to go ahead and wash off these chilies. And this is just simple enough. You're going to give it a good wash under running water and knock that skin right off. Now, as you do this, on the larger chilies, and this won't work on the smaller ones, but on these larger ones, let me show you a little trick. Get the rest of the skin off. Now, I'm going to push my finger to the edge of this, just like so, and pull down. That gives me a little slit. I want to take it at the top and peel it free from the crown. There. All I have to do. Pull that crown out, the seed pod. Watch out any excess seeds, and I'm finished. There we go. That's ready to be sliced up, beautiful skinned out, ready to go poblano. Just do all of them the same exact way. Okay, this is one of the occasions when I am going to give strong recommendation towards the use of gloves, and there's a good reason for this. This had nothing to do with cleaning up. This has to do with an item called capsaicin. Now, whenever you're dealing with any kind of a hot chili, a hot pepper, like let's say jalapeno or anything hotter than that, like serranos, then you're going to have to deal with an ingredient that's inside of this that's referred to as capsaicin, and it is an oil that exists inside of this. It's extremely hot. That's what makes the chili hot. So what I'm going to do is very gently and carefully open these up, and I'm going to sieve them. Give that a little rinse. And the idea there is you just want to get those seeds out of it, and as much of the veins and this core, because this is all capsaicin containing. It's very, very hot. So I recommend removing that to give yourself just a little bit cooler experience, and you still get the excellent chili flavor involved also. Now I'm using a lot of jalapenos this time, meaning I really wanted a very warm chili. So that's what I'm going to go for. If you don't like your chili really hot, then you might want to omit some of the jalapeno that I'm using. If you want it extremely hot, then add some serranos. Or if you're just bold enough, if you think you've got it in you, then go out and get some of those habaneros and put 2 or 3 of those down in your pot of chili. Don't be mad at me if you do that though, because I personally believe you're going to burn your mouth and you're not going to be able to eat the pot of chili. So, you've been forewarned. Now it's just time for us to get on with doing a little bit of fine cutting on this. And what we're looking for are just little tiny dice. So I'm going to be cutting these into really narrow strips, okay? Just like narrow French fries, okay? About the same width. So there we have just some nice small dice, and I'm going to do all of this chili this way. All of the jalapenos and all of the poblanos up here. Alright, we are now just at that point. We're going to finish up this last onion, and if you'll remember, we cut on either side of the root. There. There. That's simple. Take that root, we'll separate it right down the middle. See how I left that root intact down there? Now, I can remove it, and I'm ready to go ahead and finish processing this out. Remember, lengthwise cuts first. And I've always found it easier to do that right there. Better results. And what I do when I'm pulling my knife back out, I keep it in contact with the board. And that way I don't have to worry about it as I have my finger on the other side. I don't have to worry about cutting anything. Very simple. Remember, when you're doing cutting like this, curve the fingers under. Remember, very simple like that, gives you beautiful, perfect dice every time. It's a safe way to cut an onion too. You don't have to worry about anything rolling around on you. You don't worry about it being difficult for you. I'm brushing away from the blade, away from that edge. Very delicate in how I use that. Some things look a little bit scary, but if you'll watch close, there's rhyme and reason. So there we are. We have 2 medium onions, diced, and ready to go in our chili. Now, let's move on. Since we've done all of our processing, let's move right on to making this wonderful dish. Now it's time for us to go ahead and get started actually making this wonderful chili. I'm just going to take this wonderful meat that we ground up, beautiful beef. And now, I can rid myself of these and get on with cooking this. Now what I want to do, while I'm cooking up my beef, I want to cook up that onion right with it. Place that on high heat. And this is simple enough. I'm going to start by using a common turner, what a lot of people call a spatula. And use it to just break up that meat. Get the onion worked into it. Keep things clean around here. Now, also, I'm going to add to the fat that I have in it. And there's a fat that tastes really good when it's mixed in chili. A lot of people don't know about it, but believe it or not, olive oil, for some weird reason, seems to work in this case. So I'm putting in about 3 to 4 tablespoons of olive oil there. I want to bring this up and let that all start cooking together. And I want to do some browning on the meat and get that onion softened up. And when the onion starts to turn a bit translucent, it's going to be time to put in our chilies. And we're going to cook those in a little bit also. It's been about 3-4 minutes now. Just to turn that. Seeing some cooked meat on bottom. Let it keep going at it. And right now I still have this on high. Alright, let it keep cooking. We're up to about 6 minutes now on high temperature. And I'm going to, if you notice, some of these onions are starting to break down some. They're taking on more of a translucent color. Most of the meat is starting to turn gray. We got some pink spots still in it. And that's a perfect spot to go ahead and put that chili down. All the chilies right into it. And these little guys are at the heart of the flavor of this dish. It's magnificent because not only are we using chilies fresh, but we're also using chili powder, which is dried chilies that are ground. And through this, we get a magnificent combination of flavors. I just can't wait for y'all to try it. Stir that in. Allow it to work down. And at this point, I'm going to do a little additional. While that's cooking, I'm going to cover it. We'll build steam inside of that pot, and that's going to help to further break down those vegetables, make them very tender, and make for a more stewed effect, which is really what we're looking for. Well, it's only been just a couple of minutes. As I mentioned before, I want to stir it frequently during this process. We're trying to get a even cook on our meat and veggies. That looks beautiful. Now, something I'm going to do right now, and this is just to bring out some flavor. Let's put in some salt. I'm going to put in just a couple of teaspoons here. Get that stirred in. There we go. I don't know if this pot's going to be big enough. It's going to be a close fit. I think we're going to have liquid up to the top here. We'll see. We are now up to a total of about 15 minutes of cooking overall. 15, 16 in that range. And I have a nicely defined product here. Okay? The onions, if you look at those, they're very clear looking. The peppers have become soft, the meat is cooked through. It's exactly what I've been looking for. Now, I want to put in base material, and I told you earlier that you want to use about 8 ounces tomato paste. That was incorrect. I have here 16 ounces of tomato paste. So please forgive me for the misstep and saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. Now we need something to break that and give it some moisture, and I want to go ahead and start adding in some of that bourbon I mentioned before. I mentioned we're going to use about 1.5 cups, and right there's about 3/4 of a cup. That's just to start with. We'll go ahead and add in some of our water. About 1 cup of that. Now we're starting to get a consistency more like you would see in a sloppy Joe, which is on our way. Okay. Now I want to turn down my temperature just a little bit, so I have a medium flame under here. Time for us to pour in some more of that bourbon. So remember, we're trying to hydrate out that tomato paste. And we're trying to give it the oaky flavor that bourbon has. It gives it that woody flavor, kind of like the meat had been smoked. Now, more of the water. And I'm starting to get more of a chili consistency. That's the way it should be. And this is going to have to simmer. But we're going to put in the rest of our seasonings to do that. And again, more of our bourbon. If it seems like I'm going overboard, well, remember, it's a big pot of chili, and that's going to cook off on that alcohol. So a portion of that liquid goes into evaporation into the air, and the rest, which is the flavor portion, remains in the chili. A little bit more salt. Let's start with the chili powder. And I mentioned to you earlier about 3 tablespoons. 3 tablespoons is 1/4 of a cup, okay? There's 2 tablespoons. We'll start with that, work it in a little. I want to get the spoon out of my way, and you'll see why. A good quality whisk will make easy work like this, breaking up spices, getting things worked in. 1 more tablespoon. And we mentioned also we'll be having about 2 tablespoons of paprika. I over-poured that. And that's about what I got there, is about 2 tablespoons. A bit of a stir. Looks like a huge amount of spice, doesn't it? And it is. Make no mistake. Reduce that heat again so it won't bubble out while I'm working on it. This is the Cayenne. Remember, one thing about Cayenne, it's fiery hot. So, 1 tablespoon on my Cayenne, which is going to make an already hot chili blasting hot. And then we need something to help this become dry and earthy. About a tablespoon of cumin. Work that in. Alright. Now, there's one other thing some people like to use, and you don't have to put it in this. Some folks like garlic. I wouldn't recommend putting garlic powder in there. That's just icky. Yuck. Using fresh garlic, wonderful. And I'm going to put a little bit in there. I didn't mention that earlier, but guess what? I'm putting some garlic in there. So, let's turn around, do some mincing on garlic before we throw it in our pot. Now, after we go ahead and peel the paper off the outside of our garlic, as I have here, then remove the callus end on that where it was attached to the root. Just get that out of your way. Smash each of those cloves, and then we're going to do a simple cross cut using a rocking motion like so. And you need a blade that's offset from the handle like this is in order to do this properly. Put your fingers on top, fold the thumb underneath, and simply, very gently, work your way through this. And what I'm doing at first here is just breaking up the bigger pieces. I'm trying to get something small and workable. Turned it so I can get my pieces running this way. I can break them down faster. Now, mincing in this method is really quick, really easy. I've done the difficult part right there, which is just breaking it down some. The easy part is a simple, fast rocking motion. Isn't that simple? And the finer you get it, the more you can really get on it. Go. Now right out here I have a coarse mince. And these are little pieces that are about 1/8 of an inch square or larger. And I'm looking for a fine mince which would be smaller than 1/16 of an inch. Fine mince will work well in a chili. We have real fine mince. Okay, I'm ready to take this over, place it right down in the chili pot. We have good garlic there. The smell coming off of this pot is wonderful. It's a deep bourbon smell. And all of the other herbs and, all of the other spice that's in there, and the acid and everything is starting to really come up, and it smells really super good. So far, our chili has had about 10 minutes to simmer. It's simmering pretty high. I'm going to drop that temperature, get it under control so I can stir it. And if it's at a high simmer like that, sometimes you just got to do that. Don't worry about it. There we go. What'll happen on chili is that meat will go down to the bottom and it'll stick there, and if you're not careful, you'll end up burning your meat. So you don't want to do that. So give it some frequent stirring. There we go. And earlier I did add an extra cup of water to this. So if yours is a bit thick, go ahead, thin it down a little more. And if you need to add more as you go, that's fine. Okay, I have just now shut off my burner. Remember, I mentioned you might want to do that just a moment ago. There we go. Out of the way it won't come flying out of the pan at you. Now, what I have here is what looks like an absolutely beautiful chili. I think I need to thin it just a little bit more, but I also want to taste it. So, whenever you're going to taste what you're making, pull out just a little, give it a good taste, adjust your seasonings as needed. That's very good. It is a little bit flat, so here comes the salt. Okay. A little bit of that. I'm going to add a little more water. I'll let that keep simmering some more. Okay. On with the simmer. I want to give it about another 10 minutes of simmering. That'll bring us up to a total of about almost 30 minutes there of total cook. Set that back to low temperature and give it time. Well, it has been another 10 minutes, and I'm stirring this about every 5 minutes. I just finished stirring it this time, and I'm about to pull out a spoon to taste it again. And remember to do this occasionally. Always taste what you're cooking so you can adjust your seasoning. Now that, see that extra salt I put in there? Suddenly, the flavor of the chilies is popping. It's very beefy tasting now. I can taste the onion, everything. It has just started to come to life and to sparkle. So all I need to do is just give it a little more time on the simmer. Let the flavors finish marrying, and after about another 15 minutes on this, I'm going to shut it off, let it cool down, and then we're ready to bowl it up. This chili has now simmered for approximately 1 hour, and I'm turning off the flame underneath it, We're going to push it aside, and I'm just going to let it set and rest. The flavors in that have married well. I tasted it one last time, and the flavor of the chilies has come out, the flavor of the onion has come out in this. Everything just started to pop, and it all was centered around me adding that little extra salty acid in there, and then suddenly the flavors just started to pop. And that's sometimes what it takes, and that's the reason we taste our dishes, always. So, while that's cooking up, I like to put a little pasta in my chili, so I'm cooking some up over here, and that's just fine because this really needs to rest for about 30 minutes. Just let it set aside, and then dress it the way you'd like. I'll be putting on a little bit of extra onion and some shredded cheese. I can't wait. Our chili was going to need a little bit of time to cool, and while it's doing that, I want to fix some onion for my chili, and I'm going to use a red onion only for one reason. I like the color. It looks really pretty, so we're going to go with that. The yellow onion will work just as good for this, so will white. Remember, cut off not the root end, but the stem end, and turn it down. And that way you have something to hold that onion steady with. It's cut off. And sometimes the root is a little off center, and I want to cut off a narrower side. There we go. Because I don't need a lot of onion for what I'm about to do. I just want some real thin strips of onion that I can put down over the top of my chili that will look lovely in it. And what I want to do here to do this is I want to do a cut, what they call a chiffonade. And I want to start by curving my fingers under, like so, and put the knife up against my knuckles, and I want to get a motion started. And what I'm doing there is I'm slowly pulling my fingers back, just like this. As my thumb holds the back of it and keeps it from sliding back from the knife motion, my fingers slowly slide back along the flesh, and this allows me to cut these paper-thin little slices out of it, okay? So that's all I have to do there. Now if you're wondering what those little slices are like, look at this. Look at that ultra super thin onion. And that's all I had to do was that one simple motion. There, now you know how to slice down onion real quick, real easy, and to get those slices real super duper thin. Okay, and they call that little motion a chiffonade. Now I want to break these apart because I want them to look kind of loose as I put them on top of the chili. Ooh, yummy. They're so thin, so very thin, just like little threads. There. Wonderful. Okay, very simple. Now I have a beautiful garnish for my chili. Well, we've come right down to everything being ready and prepared. As I mentioned to you before, I was preparing some pasta because sometimes I like to use pasta in my chili. Now you don't have to do this. You can also use beans, or you can just omit both of them. I like to do this because the pasta makes a good filler. It adds to it, and if you're looking to stretch, especially if you have children and you want to stretch out those ingredients a little more to fill the bellies of many mouths, plus give them a lot of energy, this is a great way to do that. If not, I would recommend just leaving the pasta out completely. Some people will tell you chili's not chili unless it has beans. And that's fine. You know, there's a lot of different ways of making this. Look at that beautiful Texas red chili. That red color is just strong through it. There. Serious bowl of chili, ladies and gentlemen. Now, of course, chili deserves a little bit of garnish. And one of the things I like to put on mine is some fresh onion. Okay, so we're just going to put some of that onion right up in there. Like like so. And put some cheese right up on it. Tell you what, this is an absolutely heavenly delight. I hope you enjoy yours. I'm going to enjoy this. There we have it. Texas red chili. That's some good looking stuff. Oh boy. You know, this is one of those treats that I just love. Get a little of that cheese in it. Oh man. The flavors, so beefy and rich. And the chili flavor just explodes. I'll tell you what, give this one a try. You're gonna love this chili. I'll tell you what. Thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today, and you have a good day. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today, the show where you can get great recipes and the best techniques are taught. Please subscribe to Texas Cooking Today, where you will always find something hot and ready to eat.